You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Bohr. With today's episode, we are talking about Travis Hunter's status. We're talking about Coach Prime shading NBA superstar Joel Embiid, and then we're going to be talking about some new NCAA rules that may be coming into effect pretty soon. So without further ado, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every single day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. It's your team every single day. Okay, let's dive right into Travis Hunter. Obviously, we know what happened to Travis. He took a dirty hit, late hit against Colorado State from Henry Blackburn. A Colorado State safety that lacerated his liver. Travis obviously forgave the guy. They hung out a couple days, or I guess last week, and went bowling and kind of talked about faith and the hit and just football in general and life in general, and kind of why Travis Hunter stepped up to speak out for him because people were sending him death threats, which were completely unnecessary. And Travis spoke about that, but the hit has sidelined him for, at the time, it was said to be 3 to 4 weeks. And according to Coach Prime himself, the goal is to keep Travis out until after the bye week. So he's going to miss this week against Arizona State, likely going to miss Stanford next week. Then they have a bye week. And so their next game after October 13th won't be until October 28th. So that gives Travis essentially almost a full month to recover. I think that is a full month, actually. Yeah, more than a month to recover from this injury, which, I mean, a healthier Travis can only help Colorado. And then Travis returns for probably their other toughest stretch of the season, so that would be good. But let me tell you why, while it is unfortunate that Travis won't play, this is probably the best stretch that he should miss. Colorado plays 2 teams in Arizona State and Stanford in these next 2 weeks that are combined 2-8. They're favored by 4 points against Arizona State, and they have a pretty good chance of beating them. According to ESPN's matchup predictor, Colorado has a 64% chance of beating Arizona State. And then the Sun Devils released their depth chart today. They are riddled with injuries. So this Arizona State team is not the same Arizona State team that kind of pushed USC to the brink and even took Cal to the brink. I'm sure it'll be a competitive game, but it's a game that Colorado should win without Travis. And then next week, the following week, so October 13th, the game is on a Friday against Stanford. Friday the 13th. Oh, that's a risky game now that I think about that. Friday the 13th, Pac-12 after dark vibes. Oof, that's going to be a tough one. But Stanford is a team that's struggling. They have injuries. They have quarterback issues. They are rotating 2 quarterbacks. They don't know who their quarterbacks are. Their defense is inexperienced. Their offensive line is probably, I don't know if they're as bad as Colorado's, but they're pretty bad. So that's a winnable game for Colorado. And then they have the bye week. So Travis has another full week to recover and then another full week to prepare for UCLA. And so I think this is the smart move by Coach Prime, because after that 3-week stretch of Arizona State, Stanford, and the bye, they have UCLA, which I think they should be able to win, but that's going to be a tough matchup. UCLA has a really good defense. And then they have number 15 Oregon State coming to town, Arizona, who's a high-flying offense that could throw it all over the yard. Then Washington State, which is number 13 in the country, and then number 18 Utah. So they have 3 ranked opponents left, and Travis should be there for all of them, barring any other setbacks. And I think that's more valuable than him being here for Arizona State and Stanford, games that they're probably going to both be favored in and games that they probably should both win by double digits. So while it is unfortunate to see Travis not being able to play, it does make sense from a Colorado standpoint. And it's also funny yesterday, a video surfaced of Coach Prime. He's got the joke, especially with Travis Hunter. I think it really allows us to see his relationship with Travis Hunter. It was Bucky, or Deion Sanders Jr., was recording, as he does for his well-off content, and Travis walks by and they're talking about something, and Deion Jr., Bucky, goes something. He said like something along the lines of Travis had a BBL surgery, which if you're not familiar, it's the Brazilian butt lift, and kind of a famous thing these days amongst people looking to get their figure more I guess, exotic, I guess you could say. And so that's where they were joking with Travis that he got that. And Coach Prime chimed in, said something along the lines of, yeah, that's what I heard too. So they're making obviously light of the situation. Travis wanted to come back after the Oregon game. He texted Coach Prime, and Coach Prime told the team right away. I think it was at the first practice after, or the first meeting. The first text he received after that Oregon blowout, 42-6 loss, was from Travis Hunter saying that he wanted to come back against USC. And I think they could have used him against USC. I won't lie to you, but I think he's showing that he values the health of his players more so than like the one game result or 2 game results, which is another great reason that Coach Prime has kind of got it all figured out over there in Boulder. And I think he's someone that players are going to want to play for because he's always putting them first rather than his own personal gain and needs. So great move by Coach Prime there. Great move for him to keep Travis out for these next few weeks because while I'm sure Travis is itching to get back, they need him more down the stretch than they do for these next 2 games. And so having him back, rushing him back wouldn't do anything to benefit anybody. So without further ado, this episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back. We are talking about Coach Prime kind of taking a shot at not another coach, not another player. Well, I guess another player, but another sport, Joel Embiid. So the other day, the Philadelphia 76ers came on into town and are doing their preseason warm-up or preseason kind of practices and camps and team bonding. And a lot of teams do this. I know the Clippers go to Hawaii. I think it's the Timberwolves and I forgot who else. They're in Abu Dhabi. And so they go to these places and kind of relax and focus on basketball for a few weeks before the season starts. No family, no outside distractions and stuff like that. And the 76ers came to Colorado and they talked with Coach Prime, and Coach Prime kind of bestowed some old school wisdom on a certain player, one Mr. Joel Embiid, the MVP of last year. And for all of those people listening to the show that are residing in the lovely state of Denver, the lovely state of Denver, the lovely state of Colorado, the little rivalry between Joel and Nikola Jokic. I can't believe I just called Denver a state, just blurring out over here. Either way, he talked to him and he gave him some old school wisdom about what made Michael Jordan special. So Coach Prime's talking about what made Michael Jordan special, what made him the GOAT, and it was that he wanted the smoke from everybody. Michael Jordan never dodged anybody, similar to the way Coach Prime never dodged anybody. And he said Michael Jordan never dodged anybody. He wants that smoke. And to quote him directly, he said Jordan wanted that smoke. So then he turns his attention to Joel Embiid and goes and says this: a lot of folks duck that smoke right now. They want to be the Tarzan on paper. Don't sell me the game when I turn on the TV. That is what I'm going to get. Then I turn on the TV and I don't get that. I don't like that. If Embiid is playing the Joker, I want to see Embiid versus the Joker. I love the matchup. I want to see it. That's why I stayed up. If somebody else is on the Joker, I ain't got time for that. I'll watch the BET Awards. And so obviously that's kind of weighing in on the, I would say, pretty big criticism of Joel Embiid, which was he kind of was dodging Nikola Jokic at the end there to kind of maintain his MVP status. He had a calf strain. And so while this doesn't really, I don't think Coach Prime means any harm by this. I think he's trying to instill in a mindset in not only the Sixers, but also his players that to be a great athlete, to be a special athlete, you have to want to be in the big moments at all times. And so I think that's something that a lot of young players struggle with, because I think in theory, everybody wants to be a star. Everyone wants to be the next Deion Sanders, or everybody wants to be the next Joel Embiid or LeBron James, Michael Jordan, whatever it may be. But then when it comes down to it, there's certain things where it's like, you can't be afraid of the moment. And I think while Joel Embiid obviously doesn't need Coach Prime to tell him that he doesn't need to be afraid of the moment. I think it's a good thing for athletes to hear that sometimes, especially the elite athletes, because I think that's what separates them from. There's a tier of athletes where, like, for example, in the NBA right now, I would say there's 6, maybe 7 superstars. There's a tier there, and there's a big difference in terms of what is separating them from that next tier. And it's not skill set wise, it's their mindset. And so I think partially of what Coach Prime is telling Joel Embiid is a mindset thing. And I think that's something he wants his team to realize. And all of the recruits that he brings in is that he wants guys who have that mindset of, I want to make plays. I want to be the best player on the field, and I want to make the play. And so obviously he's not calling for them to play hero ball, because I think hero ball is probably one of the worst things in sports, but he is calling for them to have some sort of like urgency to want to be that guy. And so I think of people on this team that have that factor right now. I'd say Shadur, his son. You put Shadur on the field with 30 seconds left in the game and down by 3. Shadur's confident that he's going to get you down the field to put up a touchdown. He's not settling for a field goal to tie the game. I think Shadur gets them in position to put up a touchdown. Same thing with Travis Hunter. You put Travis Hunter on the field both ways, all game, every game, and he's going to try to make the biggest plays possible. That's just what he is. I think the only other guy, and I could be missing someone, so it's not out of disrespect. This is just off the top of my head right now. The one guy who I think has that factor right now that we just kind of were introduced to, because, I mean, I was talking about him all off season, then he didn't play, and then all of a sudden he shows up in the USC game and goes ballistic. It was Omarion Miller. I think that's the perfect mindset, or the perfect example of the mindset, because Omarion Miller goes from having 0 catches, basically just out there doing cardio most of the time. I don't even know how many snaps he played before the USC game. And then all of a sudden he goes against USC, puts up almost 200 yards, has some clutch catches down the field, toe taps, diving touchdown catches, big runs. And that's what Colorado needed to kind of get back in the game. And he provided that. And so I think that's the mindset that Coach Prime is wanting from his players. He's wanting from all these guys. And I think that's what he was trying to say when he was talking to Joel Embiid, which, I mean, Joel Embiid, maybe people weren't telling him that, and so I needed to hear that. By the way, the college football season is here, and this season Locked On is kicking up our coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live. Each Friday, Locked On will go live at 11 a.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. College Football Kickoff Live will cover playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and go in-depth like only Locked On can, including insight and analysis from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their team every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern on any Locked On College YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it. Sometimes I'm on there talking about the Buffs, so you especially don't want to miss that, because you know I come in with the best Buff takes all the time. Hit or miss sometimes. You know, you win some, you lose some. But yeah, I think Joel Embiid, which we haven't gotten a comment back from Joel Embiid, but I think he's mature enough to know that Coach Prime is not trying to belittle him. He's just kind of trying to say, hey, dude, like, step it up. We need you out there. We need to see you playing against the best, because at the end of the day, we tune in to see the best of the best. When we come back, we are going to be talking about the newest rules in college football. College football is making some rule changes, and I think there's some ones that can help Colorado, and then I think there's some ones that maybe hurt Colorado, but we'll talk about that when we come back. Welcome back. We are talking about the new rules in the NCAA for football. So they shortened the transfer window. I don't like that rule. I think this is a horrible rule. I understand the rule because I feel like the transfer portal kind of makes everything disastrous for like a month, and that's pretty crazy. But I think by shortening the transfer window, you're setting up younger athletes, these young guys who are, for some of them, this is like their last shot to get it right, because a lot of these guys don't even find homes anyway. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, don't say that. These guys find homes, and they throw out these big numbers. And it's like only so many of these guys find homes. The other guys weren't starters. Okay. So do the guys that didn't play not deserve to find a home? I don't care about that. So if you give me some stat saying that majority of the guys that didn't find homes weren't playing anyway, that means nothing to me, because at the end of the day, we care about the college athlete, the student athlete. So if they're not finding a home, that's obviously not a great thing. I also think this kind of makes it so guys can make wrong decisions and will be forced to jump into these decisions. And I think it combats things such as like, who's going to give me the biggest NIL package, or who's going to, like, what can I kind of parlay myself into at my school to get more leverage and stuff like that. I think it eliminates that, but it also, for a few occasional guys, it doesn't give them a lot of chances to make sure they're making the right decision for them. So that's one. Eliminate the 25-man football signing limit. So that is this rule, in which I've seen some confusion in the comment section, is directed towards recruiting, because right now college football recruits or college football recruiting classes are 25-man classes. I think they made an exception for the past couple of years because of the ongoing things that were going with life and stuff like that. But this is a huge rule for a program like Colorado, for a program like, I don't know, maybe a Stanford or someone like that, who, I mean, Colorado has no issues recruiting, but when Coach Prime is looking to fill these gaps in the transfer portal, and like maybe like, for the example, he needs to change that offensive line. That offensive line will probably have 5 new starters at most, or at a minimum, they'll have 3 new starters, I would say. I think there's going to be 2 guys that possibly could start again next year, but at a minimum, they're going to have 3 new starters next year. Obviously, he's going to want to go to the portal for that, but you want to build depth, and you don't want to have to go to the portal every offseason and be like, okay, time to find my starting offensive line, because that's not how you build continuity. That's just not how I think building an established offensive line could go. But now that he's able to bring in as many recruits as he wants, he obviously will be able to target these high school offensive linemen, go after the big names, and kind of build from within, because obviously that's not something that he's done thus far. He's kind of built via the portal. So I thought that was an interesting rule, because looking at their class right now, they have 8 commits, ranked 75th in the country, 1 offensive lineman, and obviously they need all the offensive linemen they could get. But I think that's an interesting rule. I think it'll help a lot of schools out. I think it'll make certain schools decide what they want to do. Do they value the transfer portal more? Do they want to just go all in on recruits and bring in like a 40-person class? And obviously they need to have scholarships available. But if a school has, say, 45 scholarships available, they could bring in 35 guys from the high school ranks, bring in 10 transfers. And so those 10 transfers play right away while the high school guys develop and get minimal or get limited playing time, but get that experience. I think that could be valuable. Next one. Makes stiffer infraction penalties. That one's not as exciting to talk about. Less severe sports wagering penalties. Don't know why they went with this one. I feel like athletes know that they're not supposed to be gambling. There's really no way around it. But this one is something that I've been calling for. This last one is implementing NIL registry, standardized contracts, etc. I think the NIL game was important. I think players deserve to be compensated for what they bring to the table. For a lot of these guys, this is the most valuable they will be in their careers. I look at athletes like, say, Jimmer Fredette, or say Johnny Manziel, or who else? Maybe trying to think of like who is someone famous but didn't like pan out. But you guys know that where I'm going with this. Guys that are superstars at the college level, and then they get to the NFL and it just doesn't work out for whatever reason. And obviously now they've been able to profit off their NIL. But I think a lot of the time, one, there's shady NIL dealings. If certain people want to get involved with NIL deals, I think they should have to kind of make that known. I feel like there's a lot of behind closed doors deals that we don't really know about. And I think that's kind of not what college football needs, because I think that's when you have issues like Jaden Rashada at Arizona State now, who goes to Florida, or was supposed to go to Florida because he had a $13 million deal in place. And then it falls through. And it's like, everybody's confused. It's like, well, one, why is anybody paying a high school recruit $13 million? I don't know. Do what you want with your money, but that never made sense to me. But then you look at kind of, I guess, the overall landscape of NIL, and I just feel like there needs to be a lot more clarity. I think the athletes need to understand who they're getting involved with. And I think for the sake of being nosy, we all want to know. We all want to know who's offering what, who's getting what, and who's benefiting the most from NIL, because obviously that'll give not only us as media members and fans a little insight into the NIL space, but it also maybe will show which programs are either succeeding or when what they're doing, or programs like a specific blue blood program that kind of is refusing to use NIL and seeing how much it hurts them and kind of leads to their downfall. So a lot of these rules I felt were necessary. I think the NCAA is always kind of getting in their own way, and I think that they are finally making some movement towards the right direction. But hey, that's what they do. They're the NCAA. Always got to find a way to react a little later than normal. So they do what they do, and it is the NCAA. This is Locked on Buffs, and I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making this your first listen. We are well over 3,500 subscribers, so I appreciate you guys. Let's get to 10,000 by the end of the year. I thank you guys for your support and hope you guys have a great Thursday.